Bam, bop, pow. Welcome back to the Point Taken podcast, guys. Today we had a really, really awesome episode.
We need a high five right now.
Yeah. Our hand gestures were right on point. With two of our dear friends, Brother Parker Bryan and
Brother Bill Ford. I don't think they're deer. More like lion friends.
all right, I hated that, and we can cut this entire segment. Let's just ditch the episode.
There's 7 people in the room, 4 left.
Let's ditch the episode. If you're anything like me, this may somewhat frustrate you. However, it's certainly worth the time and certainly worth the listen because it was super interesting and I actually learned a whole lot, guys. So we really hope you enjoy the episode, and without further ado, let's get into it. Parker and I were talking earlier, and Parker was trying to do the podcast before the podcast started, and we were talking about, and he mentioned something about purgatory.
No, that was you.
Yeah,
It was not me.
Well, go ahead. And what was your point that you were trying to make with you only have 2 destinations?
So, I have personal experience that I was going to get into, but like biblically speaking, we either go to heaven or hell when we die. We don't linger for unfinished business or whatever else. So, a ghost can't technically be what people think it is biblically. Mm-hmm. That's all. That's the only point I was making.
So what is a ghost?
Well, we know because of biblical evidence that there's spirits, and I think that is part of it. Obviously, we know demons exist, but they're not all over the place, just haunting everybody like people think they are. Oh, those are my demons. That's not what I mean. I do believe that there are evil spirits, but I have a different belief as well that, and this is just me, there's nothing biblically that argues against it necessarily, but it's like someone's personhood, their spirit can leave an imprint on people. Like you're different from meeting Brother Bill or Hunter, right? So can that also imprint some place on the earth, right? I've seen things that seen and heard things that had nothing to do with me. I was in the room that something happened in, and like, for instance, my ex-stepmom's mom passed away in the room that I...
Sorry, hold on.
My ex-stepmom, her mom passed away
Got it.
in the room that I lived in prior to me living in that room. And the bed was in the same position, too. Mm-hmm. And there were times I'd walked in and saw her laying in a position that I'd seen her in before. I'd heard her voice in the room. I'd seen her moving around in the room briefly. And I had some weird experiences when I was really young over at my grandparents' house, but they bought that house new. So I don't know what was there beforehand. But it was nothing that ever addressed me, nothing that ever talked to me. It was like something was happening I was watching. It was almost like watching TV while in the room. Like it had nothing to do with me. And then there's experiences I've had with things that were very clearly messing with me as I got older, which is part of my testimony, that I do believe something was following part of my family, but those are 2 completely different things. So spirit versus some type of imprint that's been left by
impersonating spirit.
Could be.
An impersonating spirit?
Yeah.
What do you mean by impersonating
go ahead.
spirit?
A spirit that knew the person in question and then can come back.
Impersonating spirit.
Exactly.
Got you. Now, is that what you're getting at, or are you more getting at... In other words, when you say... I want to make sure. When you say leave an imprint on a place, since places aren't sentient, are you meaning that more of what he's saying, an impersonating spirit meant to act like that person in that place that you saw? Or are you saying there can be something spiritually left in a place from someone who used to be there?
So the latter. is what my impression of it has been, but it could be either way. I'm not sold either way, which is the reason I asked the question about ghosts to be brought up. But I don't really know. I wanted to have a discussion about it and get some more biblical answers about it, because I'm pretty sold on evil spirits being a thing. But whatever I saw.
Yeah, so's the Bible. So we're good on that one. Yeah.
That's my point. But when it comes to like a ghost sticking around, we know that their soul is somewhere else. It's not here anymore. So what is that I experienced?
We know that, like, my soul will not become omnipresent and can be like God everywhere and every time. Yeah, so we know that, right?
And we have a promise.
Aura or something was left.
Something like that. I don't have a name for it. My personal opinion and my personal opinion about it has been that it's some type of imprint left on that space by what we are, which was created by God. We're the only beings on earth like this. It's like almost like a part of your personhood was left an imprint on that space. I don't know how to explain it any deeper than that.
So you're saying that these like imprints can be imprinted upon, and obviously you said you don't know, but on a person or a place, and in your experience, like in that room, like you would see and you would hear.
Yeah. Heard more than saw, but there were a couple times I very clearly saw something that was very obviously her.
So if we were going to use the word haunted, for example, your view is not there is a spirit trapped between heaven and hell in that place. You're not there. You're saying, I don't know what to call it, but there's some type of imprint of that person that is there.
Or it could be an impersonating spirit. I don't know. That's what I wanted to kind of try to get to the bottom of.
So if it was the first one, how would you word it in a sense? In other words, is that imprint sentient? Does it know that it's...
No, I do not believe it is. It's almost like a replay of something that's happened before. It's not like it's speaking to you or making different decisions. It's like something that was left there is almost like a recording. I don't know. There's nothing that I've seen biblically that argues for or against anything like that. I've been trying to find a biblical answer for that. So if a spirit makes more sense, then...
And what would an impersonating spirit's purpose be in your mind, Bill?
Confusion.
Confusion.
One of the definitions I saw is like an unresolved trauma has kept them willfully or unwillfully trapped in this time. And
we've all seen that.
And it would to me it would sort of be pushing you towards reincarnation. Like you have a choice on when you leave and go into the next world.
You know,
that is a secular definition.
Sure. So, in your mind, whatever Parker's describing, if we want to use the word impression, would always be, when I say negative, would always be of Satan, not of God? Is that what you're getting at? Or are you not going that far? Okay, if the purpose is confusion, obviously that's not of God. Our God is not a God of...
Confusion.
Yeah. Right, okay. Well,
I mean, this isn't an unheard of thing.
Sure.
Because, I mean, even you watch any, shows like if you've ever watched Supernatural, they have something called Echoes.
Have you ever noticed that every show on the History Channel has nothing to do with history, but they're all interesting? But they're not about history at all. None of them are about history.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's not the only thing, but it's like, basically, in their, little writing TV world, it was... this person went through something sudden and traumatic, and that's how they died. And then their spirit replays it. And so it's just like you go into the house or the area. So if they were hit by a car, maybe they're in a neighboring house and they just are echoing those last few moments of their life right before they die, which was kind of what this reminded me of. Just like, it kind of seems like something like that, with that impression that you made, just like you see or hear little bits of their time that they were alive, not talking directly to you, but just as if they were still there.
Yeah, I mean, she was suffering of cancer and dying of cancer when all this stuff was going on, which is what I believe that I witnessed was like a replay of that. I don't see how, of course, I don't know. It's the reason I asked, but I don't see how something that wasn't significant could leave some type of impression like that. So,
Yeah.
I've got a thought on that.
Okay.
So, I don't think I'm going to go as far as to say that an impression can be left on a place. I don't think I'm going to go that far. But here's what I will say. So, for example, I think it's important that we solidify the biblical teaching that right now, spirits are either eternally away from God or eternally with God. The only part of them that is left here is their body.
physical body, yes.
Physical body, right?
Right.
Their soul / their mind, their personality is with their spirit, and here's how I know that. So I'm going too fast. So if we view ourselves the way the Bible views us, as having a body and a spirit, soul is that which makes us us. So all those
Yes.
movies, Freaky Friday, Trading, whatever,
Right.
it's like if Parker's personality were put in my body, and my personality, this is a bad example because we have almost the same body type, but mine was put into Parker's, right? But the idea being our souls are connected to our spirits in the eternal place, and we know that because the few pictures we get into heaven or hell, even without their physical body, that person's identified by their name, by who they... So remember the rich man and Lazarus?
Yeah.
He has his own personality still intact from when he was on earth. Both of them do. Mm-hmm. He's able to talk to Abraham, whose body is still somewhere buried in the Middle East, as Abraham. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't go that far. I would not say that there are impressions left on places. However, here's what I will say. The universe is a spiritual place in the sense that in reality, the physical world is the temporary, not fake. It's not fake, 'cause that's not true. It's the temporary one.
Right.
The spiritual world is the eternal one. This world is passing away. we all understand that. Mm-hmm. Now, that is not to say that in heaven and earth we won't have bodies. We will. They'll just be spiritual bodies. But we will have bodies one day. But the point I'm getting at is this. At this, even though I would say no impressions, that the whole of the person is in heaven or hell, we have impacts on this place. God told Adam, the ground is cursed because of you. So, not impressions in the sense of maybe as far as you're taking it, but consequences. The ground is cursed because of man. The reason why it's hard to grow plants and thorns and thistles, the reason why dogs get sick and trees die is because of man. So there are consequences to our existence in this mostly spiritual universe. I would say that. I would also say that what we do has eternal significance, and that it can press upon people not just on their physical bodies, but when we do the will of God, when we share the love of Jesus, when we make an impact on somebody, it's not just their brain that brings that to memory 15 years down the road when you're dead and gone. It is the work of the Spirit bringing that work that you did to their mind and to their heart so that they can act on it. So, I would say it's important for us to confess what the Bible teaches, that the whole of the Spirit goes to be with God or goes to be away from God, which we've already said. I would say that I'm not so fast to... When I hear of things happening that can't happen in a purely physical world, I don't immediately dismiss it because this is not a purely physical world. It's just not. In fact, that's actually the lesser significant, more temporary part of the world is the physical realm, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah, like I'll say, and just to start it off, I think I'll say I don't believe in any of that. I personally, I don't believe in any of that. I just don't see it. However, I will say this. I have always had fairly strong opinions, and I would make very quick judgments, I think, because of those convictions. But I've come to be thinking about it, and I'm wondering, it's kind of similar in the same way of mythology. Think of like, why do multiple countries have historical myths of dragons all originating from their own continent? Right, not being shared, like it's not just China.
Because dragons existed would be the most logical.
Right, and so, that is it necessarily 100% true? No, but is that more logical? In the same way, even though I do not believe in, I don't really believe.
Let's use the word ghost. We don't believe in ghosts.
I don't believe in ghosts. Yeah. I don't really believe in the imprint thing or anything. However, instilled inside of me when odd things happen that don't click in my head as natural or normal, there is a fear. There's like a natural, like,
you're afraid someone's watching you and there's no one behind you.
Right. There's something about that. There's a natural fear instilled in most people. Why are horror movies typically spirits and ghosts? Like, why is that the case? In our natural being, if there's nothing to it, so like just on the for argument from somebody who's against.
I don't disagree with you. I definitely do not believe in ghosts, especially in a traditional way. What I'm trying to find out is an explanation for what I did experience, because I experienced something. It could very well be just something in me that experienced that. Now, I didn't see. Some of the things that I saw and heard weren't things that I necessarily saw and heard in person, but could have happened in that room. So that's what I'm trying to explain. I don't have like any super strong opinions on it. Sure. It's just what I've tried to make sense of it is really all it boils down to. Because it was something. And it could have just, like I said, been something that was within me that made me think I saw something or think I heard something. And I'm not going to dismiss that as a possibility. It's just
but the experience happened.
Yeah, the experience happened.
Right.
One way or another.
Yeah.
You were trying to say something, brother.
Oh, you were talking about the fear that was ingrained in you. Perhaps superstition is part of our basic human nature. And something strange happens, hair on your arm stands up.
I mean, but why would that be?
I think what Bill was getting at earlier is the key to almost all of instances like what Parker described. And I'm going to use the word almost on purpose for a moment, because Satan is a god. Excuse me. Well, I do mean that in a sense, a god of confusion. But for the lack of clarity, it is a spirit of confusion.
Yeah.
The best way to confuse people is to say things that are almost 100% true.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay? So, remember back in the garden, he doesn't say to Eve and Adam, there is no God. That would have been a very unconvincing lie. They saw him. They heard him. That would not have been a very convincing lie. He said, did God really say? In other words, I'll let you believe that God is omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing. I'll let you believe that he created all. You can keep all that. But let's doubt his word and what he has said to you. Did he really say that? That was the first lie that he said to man. So it is amazing that Satan binds people up with things that are mostly true, like humans are spiritual creatures, right? And then he takes that to extremes of having people hyper focused on loved ones that have departed, and instead of being at peace with where they're at, teaches them some lie that they're in some in-between land, and speaking to you to your TV, and, things like that. And Satan's really good at his job. But I would say, while, and again, we don't know all the workings of Satan. I think if God right now revealed to us every plan, every demonic influence thing that happens in our nation, for example, I think we'd be blown away. Because so little of it is possessional control, and so much of it is influence. And I think one of the things we have to remember is how wicked is our world. I'll just give you two examples, and if I get to talking too much, you tell me to shut up.
That's too much. No, I'm just kidding.
Here's how wicked our world
waiting on
is. Let's start with humans. The darkest book in the entire Bible is the book of Judges.
Okay.
It's a hard read. I don't read parts of it before I go to bed. It's a hard read. The last sentence says, "For there was no king in Israel, and everyone did what was right in their own eyes." This is how evil humans are. Not that everyone was trying to do bad. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. And we have the most violent, most gruesome, most sexually perverse, horrific things happen in that. Because everyone did what they thought was right.
Totally depraved.
Let your conscience be your God is what Jiminy Cricket tells us. That's what it gets us.
Listen to your heart.
Yeah, right? And the other one is Ephesians 2, that says that every human being prior to salvation is walking according to the ways of Satan. Well, how are they walking according to the ways of Satan? Not with Ouija boards for the most part, or tarot cards. I don't know how to pronounce that word.
Tarot.
Yeah. That's not the norm. The norm is by teaching them to look inward. By teaching them and distracting them with everything other than God.
Humanism.
And the way to do that is to have a lot of God-ish things that they're looking at.
I'm not a Christian, I'm spiritual.
Yes. Or I'm a Christian, and being a Christian is the gospel plus.
Yeah.
It's getting as close to the truth as you can, because that's where the best lies happen. Whenever I'm messing with someone and trying to convince them, joking, that I'm right and they're wrong, and I realize I'm wrong. Like, let's say it said, well, you're the one who did that. I'll say things that day that were true. You don't remember us going to Huey's that day. Yeah, and you ordered the one without onions so I could have the leftovers. And I just say a bunch of things that are true, and then I say, and then this happened. Like, you know what, I do remember all that. I guess you're right. It works wonders, by the way. That's a joke. But
Master manipulation.
I'll never trust you again.
He's teaching us how to gaslight over here.
But, you know, when it comes back to the thing with Ghost, I think Hunter said it right, and Parker, I think we're all on the same page. There is no such thing as trapped spirits. There is no such thing as
absolutely
not with God. There's no such thing as that. The only thing I will say is God works in mysterious ways, and so does Satan. That's as far as I can go with that. God works in mysterious ways, so does Satan. But here's what I would say for sure. I don't think there are places that I go where there's so little of the presence of God, I feel it when I go there. I've talked this way about New Orleans before.
Yes.
I've talked that
I
way.
felt the same thing.
Yeah, I've been there 8 or 9 times. I felt that way before. Not picking on anyone who might listen to this from New Orleans. It's a fact. I don't go as far as to say then that means that's a permanent impression of that place that can never... No. If God's people there who are called by his name humble themselves and pray, not just the world, if God's people, the remnant, humble themselves and pray and seek His face, and He will turn and heal their land. God can do that anywhere with God's people. So, yeah, as far as your specific experience, I've got about a million questions I could ask of who, what, when, where, why. But I think, in general, if we keep those big, obvious things of there are no trapped spirits, and those kind of things, I don't see any other time in the Bible describing what you described, where a impression of a person's soul or spirit is left on a place. I'm trying to think of a single time.
It was just an idea.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one of those things where there's nothing that I've seen in the Bible that says yes, that's possible, or no, that is impossible. Which is, and I'm paraphrasing greatly here, but the Bible does say that there are things that we do not know, and we will know them in the future.
Yeah,
they will
100%.
be revealed to us.
100%.
And I just kind of chalk it up to be one of those things where it's just something we don't know about yet.
Sure.
Or it could have just been in my own head. So there's that.
Well, those can be one and the same thing. We don't know everything that's in our own head sometimes.
All right, so let's talk about. So we've had our opinions there, based biblically, usually. Let's look in the Bible.
Where we at, bro?
So right now, I'm going to the obvious one, 1 Samuel 28.
Yep.
And this is one of our best.
That was in Bill's notes too. Look at my man
I
Bill.
got that.
Man, yeah.
I mean, it's going to be my opinion, is the best argument, or really just example of spiritualism
Sure.
and that realm.
We've done
As
this one
far
on the
as-
podcast before. I
We
think.
have,
Yeah.
and we've talked about it, but now we're going to do it in a slightly new light, because now we're raising the question, well, what's the difference between a soul and a spirit? Spiritual bodies versus non-spiritual bodies, being called by their name even though they don't have a body. So as I read this, I'd like us to figure out, okay, did the witch call up a spirit, a ghost, or a soul? And just keep thinking on that. So this is King Saul. He had put out a hit basically on all the spiritualists and the mediums. Said, cut their heads off, yada, yada. Then he goes...
Unless he needs their help.
Correct.
Yeah, unless he needs their help.
Then
Right.
he goes in disguise.
Politicians don't do that, right?
No, of
they
course
don't make
not.
laws. Yeah, okay.
No. Yeah, just think about armed security.
Anti-gun, unless they're protecting me.
Right.
Right.
Then he goes in disguise to the medium, and the medium's just like, hey, I shouldn't be doing this because the king is beheading all of us. And then Saul, who is the king, is just like, no, it's totally fine. So let's go to 1 Samuel 28, starting in verse 8. So Saul disguised himself, putting on other clothes, and at night he and 2 men went to the woman. Consult a spirit for me, he said, and bring up for me the one I name. But the woman said to him, surely you know what Saul has done. He's cut off the mediums and spiritists from the land. Why have you set a trap for me, my life, to bring about my death? Saul swore to her by the Lord. As surely as the Lord lives, you will not be punished for this. Then the woman asked, who shall I bring up for you? Bring up Samuel, he said. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out at the top of her voice and said to Saul, why have you deceived me? You are Saul. Already there should be some questions here. The king said to her, don't be afraid. What do you see? So he doesn't see it. The woman said, I see a ghostly figure coming up out of the earth. What does he look like? He asked. An old man wearing a robe is coming up. Then Saul knew it was Samuel, and he bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. Samuel said to Saul, why have you disturbed me by bringing me up? All right. Lots of things to see here. One, it seems that she has access to bring up whomever. Who do you want me to bring up? Samuel. Done. It's like, okay. Bring up. Do we have a different translation of that? Does yours say bring up?
Most of the translations I've seen says he sought out a woman with a familiar spirit.
With a familiar spirit.
Right. Instead of, the New King James has medium, but if she had a familiar spirit, then she was aware of this things in the supernatural. And probably she made her living by bringing up false spirits.
False?
Yeah, I mean, okay. If somebody paid her to bring up the spirit of Uncle George,
Sure.
then there would be like an impersonating
So
spirit.
Oh, an
That-
impersonating
So
spirit.
that's exactly what I was about to get out, but Bill said it 100 times better than I ever will. But the point, what he just said, yeah, she doesn't seem shocked that she's able to do this.
Right.
No, she does. She seems freaked when Samuel comes up.
When it's Samuel.
So it's like, did God allow
So-
a special dispensation here?
So
I think he would have had to if that was him, because this sounds a whole lot like people trying to assume powers that only God has.
Well,
If they're bringing
So are we
actual
saying
ghost up,
are we saying that beforehand she was not bringing anybody up, and when suddenly Samuel appeared, she's like, "Oh crap, this
Yeah.
is for real."
I think what we're getting at is you can word it however you want. Satan, through demonic spirits, led people to believe that what they were bringing up previously was the spirit of their loved ones,
Or
when
the
it was
soul.
really demon A. You follow me on this?
Okay.
We have God allowing, as far as I am aware, the only time in the entire Bible. Okay, I'll let you actually talk to Samuel. One time.
look at verse 15.
Samuel said to Saul, "Why
Now
have you disturbed
Samuel.
me?"
Yeah, and then Samuel said to
And
Saul.
then verse 16 and verse 20.
Yeah, it's actually Samuel here. So I think Bill is spot on. I think Satan's the great deceiver. I think what we have here is exactly what happened with all the false gods. Watch this. Just everyone. How many gods are there? Well, biblically, you have to say one.
Yeah.
So what do we do with hundreds of passages in the Old Testament about Baal?
Sure.
And I think the answer is very simple. Baal, the god, does not exist. However, Satan, using demonic spirits, allows magicians to do things like he did with Pharaoh. Allows idols to move. Allows them to think there's actually a god out there named Baal. Allows them to think there's actually a god out there named Anubis. Allows them to actually think there's actually a god of the river or something like that. Mm-hmm. What that is spiritual demonic powers deceiving, making people think there's actually a god like that.
Right.
But there were principalities and powers.
100%.
Like the Prince of Persia, Prince
for
of
example.
Greece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Those are all, I won't say minions of Satan.
Again, to deceive.
The purpose is to deceive. And what a great deception.
Yeah.
And what a great deception that is. I think what Bill said right here is this is the only time we have where Yahweh allows one of his own to come speak to a living person. In this case, Saul.
well, that's the only way it would have happened, because there's no way that a human being could assume power
No,
of
over
of
God. No.
and pull
No.
someone from heaven or hell.
Now,
Pull him
now,
up
now,
from Sheol.
now that's if we're talking about the soul. So it's like, is there a difference between the soul, the spirit, or the imprint, or the whisper, or whatever you want to call it?
Well,
It was visible.
how do you define a spirit?
Right. That's the question.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying with this is there a possibility, and which I've already stated my belief is no. But what I'm saying is, for those who are saying like, wait, is there a possibility that not Samuel notwithstanding, Samuel's obviously different, but is there a possibility that witch was not faking every time, and it wasn't just a demon?
No. Maybe I misunderstood. I'm not saying she was faking. She really believed
She was bringing up the demon.
Like lie detector test. She would think she was bringing up spirits of people.
Right.
Why was
she
she so
wasn't.
surprised when Samuel showed up then?
Because
Right.
she could actually recognize that it was Samuel.
She could see him in his form because
what-
he was wearing robes and he was an old man.
So could she not see them in their forms beforehand?
I think we would assume no.
Okay.
Right, because
Okay.
either she was a phony, a big fat phony, or she was bringing up.
The interesting part of this passage is when she sees it Samuel, she knows
She
that this
knows
dude
that
is Saul.
this dude is Saul.
When she sees it Samuel, she knows this guy is Saul.
Got you.
That's the interesting part, of which there's a couple reasons you could think that. And I've never been able to solidify my answer to that. But the best I have of to what, just point me to the verse.
12.
Yep,
28,
12.
Yeah, she saw Samuel and cried with a loud voice. Because remember, she is most likely someone who has been removed from Israel by Saul and Samuel. Because remember, Saul is the one who declared the edict. Well, Samuel is the prophet to the king. So she probably was familiar with them. Their appearance, what they look like. It says he disguised himself.
Yeah, but he couldn't make himself short, and he was a particularly tall dude. So
Sure,
if
sure.
you're already afraid of Saul, and then this tall dude shows up.
Obviously, whatever has been happening in her life, it never happened like this. So she saw
Something had to
Samuel
be
and was
different.
able to recognize
Unique
him
experience.
as Samuel. So this was a unique experience for her, however we want to interpret that. And then she knew this must be Saul.
Mm-hmm.
And he's asking for his prophet, the one who gave him God's word, to come give him one more word. And by the way, it's not a good word.
Well, does
it's
it-
about to give him.
Does it say that she was surprised that she could see Samuel? It says, when the woman saw Samuel, she cried out at the top of her voice and said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me?"
Well,
you are
since
Saul."
verse 11, he said specifically, bring up Samuel. Verse 12, why would she cry with a loud voice when she saw Samuel?
See, that's what I'm confused
That's-
about. If it was some type of spirit that she had been bringing up previously meant to deceive, then whether she thought it was actually the soul of that person or not, it sounds to me like she had been seeing what she believes the actual person
Right,
come up
because
from the
even
ground.
Samuel,
But it doesn't mean
even
they
Saul
were
said-
recognizable.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they could
Oh,
be
that's true.
Heard something, whisper, shadowy.
Well, it has to
It'd
have
have
like
to
an
be
actual
Yes.
figure.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what was confusing
some
me.
shadowy figure, heard something kind of like that.
Got you. So-
this she sees Samuel.
So never before. We're assuming never before she has seen something this clearly
and,
before.
And just to be straightforward with you, that would tell us, because the Bible says that those who are God's children are safe in His arms once they die. This is not something that could be. In other words, this is one of God's own,
That one.
which means God permitted them to be seen back on earth.
I'm just playing with that.
See, that's how I read that. Exactly what Bill just said. Before, she believed that she was actually bringing up spirits of dead people when it was demonic deception the whole time. But this time,
Yeah.
she actually can recognize, oh, that really is that dude.
Yeah, because he said, "What do you see?" He couldn't see it. She
She
could.
said, old person.
Yeah, but like he said, "What do you see?" Because we have to assume that he can't see whatever that she's seeing. So there's something special about her. Now, I'm trying to make my determination here, just like were the spiritualists and the mediums, were they known as being sinful, like of the devil or dark?
Yes,
Or
because this was outlawed in the law of God before Saul did this. This was outlawed
in the law of God.
in Deuteronomy or Leviticus. This was
Don't go unto them who have familiar spirits.
yes.
I mean, that's-
Paul.
What
God forbids that.
What I'm finding really interesting is because, I grew up with the impersonation of if a psychic is legit, that's demonic. Like most of them have
Witchcraft.
Right.
100%.
Well, most of them have the little machines under the table.
Yeah.
And they're fake. But if you ever come across one that is legit, don't mess around with it, but it's because it's demonic. But if you think about it in this context right here, even the demonic ones are running scams. Because all they're doing is saying, bringing up another one of their buddies,
but
or like a false
They don't
spirit.
know that's what's happening. But
But what I'm saying, the demonic power are using their own power to show themselves, not your dead relatives or whatever. So it's still, if you go to them that is a legit one who is seeing something that you cannot see and is something spiritual, what we're saying, if it's an impersonating spirit, it's still basically a scam.
Yeah, the deceit is so deep, even the person
That's
performing the
doing it is
seance
getting scammed.
is getting scammed, yeah.
But and then Bill's got something. It's the same thing with false teaching. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll use Joel Osteen. Is Joel Osteen, does he know what he's doing is demonic, is evil, is wrong, is dragging people to hell? And the biblical answer to that is yes and no. The biblical answer to that is from Peter. It says, they are deceiving and being deceived.
Man, yeah.
They are deceiving and being deceived. So in other words, you started to believe your own lies. Deceiving and being deceived is the biblical answer to that. I think it's the same thing with the scenario.
I just thought that was funny.
Oh yeah. It's still a scam. Is that what you're
Yeah,
getting at?
like it's still
You
like
expected honesty, bro.
right. Well, no, it's just like because you have that assumption, just like demonic power.
Right.
Right, but what power do they actually have?
Right.
They have something like they can, copy some of the miracles,
Right.
in their own way. But can they bring a soul from damnation or from heaven? No.
Well, it's kind of like Ra, the sun god of Egypt.
Yeah.
He did not let those magicians. There is no such thing as Ra.
Sure.
But there's demonic power who turned some sticks into snakes to help convince people that Ra exists.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? Now, but there's limitations to that. When God says, so like they go, yeah, we can do that one, we can do that one. Oh, we can't do that one. Water the blood, or whichever one, they couldn't do some of them.
Fourth or fifth one.
And God's like, yeah, and even if they could, God said, I'm done, I'm doing this one. So, you were trying to say something a minute ago, Bill?
It's all to keep the person that came to the medium, keep them deceived,
Exactly.
keep them into the witchcraft mentality
Right.
and away from God.
The
Devil comes to kill and deceive and destroy.
Well, I mean,
the strategy and coordination.
when is somebody the most susceptible to something like that, or
Tragedy.
to come into Christ,
Tragedy.
right?
Trauma,
That is, you are looking for answers. So if Satan can get to you first, right, and keep you deceived, then you don't go looking for answers for the
Or
actual
tell you
truth.
what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Man. Brother Bill, Brother Bill had a verse that he showed me before we started. I was wanting him to read for us.
Oh,
real
it
quick.
was Matthew 14:26. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a ghost." And they cried out for fear.
When the disciples saw Jesus walk on the water.
And then when he walked through the wall,
Yeah.
after
yeah.
the resurrection, they thought he was a ghost.
Right.
So there's a lot of superstition.
So we know, see, that's another thing. We know ghosts don't exist in the sense of it being someone's soul. But just like you were talking about with dragons,
Right.
Ghosts exist in almost every form of culture throughout history. So there has to be
So
something
we can
to them.
ascertain that Satan uses
Yes.
death, especially death of loved ones, to deceive, to take advantage of the emotional turmoil they're in, and he actually does things in order to keep them sometimes kept in grief, sometimes deceived into believing lies, etc.,
lowered
etc.
into psychosis.
Yeah. It's kind of like, someone I know has some meditation rocks, gems and stuff.
The crystals.
Those are absolutely pointless.
Yeah. They're pretty.
But if I were Satan and I wanted to keep someone deceived, I would let them feel relaxed. You know what I mean? To keep someone deceived. That's the idea behind it. Those rocks can't. They're Walmart trinket toys, and not really, but you understand
Right.
the point. They're that pointless. But deceiving and being deceived, he is the father of lies. That's how the Bible talks about him. That's what he does. He's the best liar ever to exist.
Man.
In Matthew 24, over and over and over, Jesus says, "Be not deceived, be not
Be not
deceived,
deceived."
be not deceived."
That's
It's
why.
not easy.
That's why he goes in like such extreme about who God. I heard this said a long time ago. It's so right. I'm going to use an analogy. I don't know if this is true, but the idea was if the U.S. Treasury Department hires 10 new people, there are 12 million ways to make counterfeit money. You can't study them all.
Yeah.
But they hand them a $1 bill and a 5 and a 20 and whatever, and they just have them with a magnifying glass, a real one, go over every detail. And the point being is,
Don't look at the lie.
listen, I don't have time to teach you all 17,000 ways that people make counterfeits. If you just know what the real one looks like perfectly in and out, you will always be able to catch a counterfeit.
Wow.
No matter how much, you will always be able. Like you count how many of the little yellow 20s on the back. You can, I mean, and it can't be reproduced if you know what the real one looks like. And so the idea is, there's a million ways Satan can deceive, but there's only one truth. So when Scripture tells us, "Be not deceived," don't let little things like this deceive you. This is how God really is. This is why it's so important that even our well-intending brethren who I saw one the other day, a local church here in Memphis. He's an apostle, and the other female pastors, strike one, are prophets. And when they post their prophecies on their blog, they post it in the first person, speaking for God.
Awesome.
As in God's. I'm struggling to repeat, but to say, I am saying to anyone who sees this, take courage. I mean, literally in the first person.
Oh my goodness.
So when he said, even our well-intending brothers who believe they're receiving brand new revelations from God, they don't mean this, but that is the strategy of the enemy, is to deceive and confuse and say, actually God's like this. Oh, actually God's like this. God has said how he is. And our job is to study the reality of that so we're not confused by actual counterfeits out there.
Yeah, and that's something to consider, is that Satan can uplift if it's a lie. Like Satan can do stuff like that. Maybe those prophecies are super uplifting and joyful and happy and can comfort you.
He offered
And then-
Jesus all the treasures of the world. Or
Yeah.
how do you, but the kingdoms of the earth, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, just because you're comforted by something, you feel it's wholesome and good, does not mean that it's not completely evil. So, yeah. That's interesting. Aliens.
Aliens.
Oh, God.
Aliens.
That was a wonderful segue. By
That
the
was
way.
good. Yeah, I got aliens.
I was, yeah.
You know what I think of every time I think of aliens? This is a character flaw of me.
Uh-huh.
The little annoying ones with 3 eyes in Toy Story.
Oh. Claw.
Hey,
I have been chosen, brother.
what is the name of that pizza place? Is it Pizza Rev?
No, it's
Pizza
a
Planet.
Pizza
Planet, yeah.
What's Pizza Rev? Is that a real place?
Yeah, it's a real place.
Yeah, that was a real place
I haven't eaten lunch
right
since
down
then.
the street, but it got...
So I just gave someone free advertisement, but I didn't, because they're not existing anymore.
Yeah, unless they're a chain.
Or they left an impression on me, but they can't, because I didn't eat it. See what I did? That was a good segue. That was a much better one. Aliens.
Aliens. Yeah, well, I mean, let's talk a little bit about aliens, because there are many to whom this is very interesting, and they are very excited to hear about this. So
A lot of plural there.
oh my gosh! I mean, because you know that aliens is a topic that everybody can get into.
Yeah.
Especially when the government comes out and says they're real.
Dude,
Yeah.
that was insane. Thank you for bringing that up. And they bring out this dried up little like gray thing with the big back
I
head.
think I've missed this one.
It was the Mexican government, brother. And he brought it up, and the government came
I
out
missed this one.
and said, "We've been keeping this a secret."
How long ago was this?
Didn't the Canadian government come out
Last
and
year, I think.
corroborate the story before the American government came out and admitted it?
I don't remember.
I
All
can't
I
remember
know
the
is
order.
that I was laughing so hard.
I missed this.
You missed this?
What did they bring out?
Okay.
Oh, bro,
this was like
Why
a couple of
is
years ago.
this side
you
of the
can bring
table?
up a screenshot of this and put it up there, and I'll
Why
give you the picture.
is this side of the table unaware and that
Is
side?
it like an alien gray or something?
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. It's literally exact. Picture an
How
alien.
close to Marvin the Martian?
I mean, no, I mean it's close. It's not close to Marvin the Martian, but picture an alien. Like you're gonna see this on a
You tell me to
Mexican
picture something that
government.
I don't believe exists. So it's
That's
hard for
not
me
how
to-
you spell government.
So you don't believe aliens exist at all?
Depends on your
Images.
definition of alien, but no.
Here it
I
is.
don't believe in space.
Here it is.
Yeah.
And this
same
is
here.
the picture. This is what they came out with and said is an alien.
That right there
That's for real.
is what it's supposed to be an alien.
That
right
is
there.
supposed to be an alien, right? That
Yeah.
I mean, I would say
you
you can't
did that
make
where
this
they-
up, but they did. Yeah, I'm gonna give this to Lowell so he can put it up.
Yeah.
You
They said that's an alien.
hold on. Have you ever seen the Proud Family, the old show?
Yes.
Like, the big head, like that's the head. They just put
Give me
that
that phone.
big head. Oh my gosh, and it's built like a human almost. I was like, why are we
This is crazy.
like?
No one believes
What
this.
movie studio had the worst with terrible effects? And they come out as a government and say we've been keeping this a secret.
Yeah, okay.
So obviously anybody with the brain, when they saw that, said, "Okay, what's the government doing right now? Obviously, it's something terrible that
Right.
they don't want us to
We
see."
need to distract.
Yeah, it's like let's distract them.
Hey, people found these corpses of people we killed 10 years ago. Let's say they were aliens.
No. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. This is basically what the alien grays that people are talking about
Okay,
look like.
okay.
This was a sketch made by Aleister Crowley.
Oh, I know Aleister Crowley,
Yeah, this back
Big
in when
forehead.
1800s.
a good friend of the Satanist Club.
I got a couple friends who look like that.
Yeah. Two are in this room. But they're not on camera right now. so it's okay.
One of my favorite comedy sketches is from a group called The Whitest Kids You Know, and it was a sketch about a government guy, and he's saying, "All right, guys, here's the big secret: aliens are real. We've been lying to you," and he keeps saying all these ridiculous things, and then one of the reporters is like, "We wouldn't happen to be invading Iran."
Yeah,
would we?"
yeah,
And he said,
exactly.
"Ah, you got me." Yeah. So I was like, that's what it's got to be.
So let's do this. Since we've only got 20 minutes, I do want to cut to the chase. So yes, no, or don't know. Because we haven't defined alien yet. So let's do this. Living beings.
Intelligent?
I got three right here.
Oh,
Go ahead.
send it.
Terrestrial, extraterrestrial, or ultra-terrestrial.
Terrestrial.
I would like to know what those mean in context.
Terrestrial means Earth.
Well, I know that, but I mean, in context, what do we mean? How is it? How would it?
What
be
is
alien?
ultra?
Ultra-terrestrial
Let's start with terrestrial.
is a non-human living among us, either underground, underwater, or disguised as human. This was
Okay.
in a report June 14th with a Harvard study group,
Okay.
reported on Fox, CBS, The Economist.
So in other
Times
words,
and
they're living.
Newsweek.
They're living on Earth. In other words,
Yeah.
extraterrestrial, they're living outside of Earth. Ultra-terrestrial.
Now, terrestrial is on Earth. Extraterrestrial is from,
Not
another,
on Earth.
from another world.
And ultra-terrestrial is hidden,
Hidden. Yeah.
either underground, underwater, or disguised.
No, that was
This was put out by
and they're
Harvard
saying that there are
University.
ultra-terrestrial living among us. That's what the
That's
news
what
people were saying.
that's what the story was.
okay.
It's
So
almost like lizard people. To
Well,
me.
it's like the story. That's what the story was. I'm not saying
Sure.
it's true.
yeah, right. So let's go around. What camp are you in? You, and me. You first.
I am probably in between ultra terrestrial and terrestrial.
Well, can we define real quick what terrestrial is? Because I still don't understand.
Of the
Human technology,
Yeah.
people, us, humans.
But does it have to be
But-
exactly
but we're not
human
aliens,
technology?
so-
Hold on.
What are we
so
saying?
he's in terrestrial. You're not saying there's
Okay.
aliens that exist.
Okay.
Help define it for the
This
dumb people.
let's see. Where was it?
Me and Hunter are the dumb ones. Help define it.
NPR broadcast July 27th, 2023. 3 U.S. veterans, including an Air Force intelligence officer. Quote, the U.S. government has created a secret multi-decade reverse engineering program of recovered vessels. Also recovered non-human biologics from alien crash sites. NPR broadcast July 27th, 1923.
So, but again, what we're getting at is
1923.
Are you still trying
I'm sorry,
to?
2023.
Are you still trying to understand the definition of?
100%,
Okay,
yeah,
okay. So
yeah.
ultra-terrestrial meaning hidden somewhere beneath the earth, beneath the
Aliens,
water,
an
right?
alien.
Yes,
Okay.
an alien.
Got it.
Terrestrial
somewhere
meaning
from another planet that is now here.
Or terrestrial meaning hidden among us on the earth, whether created by humans or not, right? Hidden here.
Okay, but-
extraterrestrial meaning from outer space.
All right,
Am I?
but let me do that again.
Okay,
make
so
sure. So
because hold on, alien means not from Earth. So how would we consider something made by a human an alien?
I agree with you, but that's just what we've been referring to them
That's
as. I mean, you can
that's
go
what
to
they're talking about when they talk about the UFOs. They're either human technology, extraterrestrial technology, or
Hold on,
the ultra.
they've modified it now. They don't call them UAP,
UAPs.
unidentified aerial phenomenon,
Yeah.
is what they're referred
Okay.
to now.
So, long story short, here's what I'm asking:
Yeah.
yes or no? Parker, aliens exist.
Yes.
Okay. Are they from other planets or no?
No.
Okay. So the word alien, which means foreign, you're saying there are aliens that exist that are not from other planets.
We just got done talking about how the devil deceives,
It's a
right?
deception.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
But living beings.
Yes, I believe that they are living beings, and
Okay.
I have my own opinion on where they came from and how they exist.
Okay. Hunter.
Not only do I fully reject that description, I don't believe in aliens, extraterrestrial or otherwise.
Okay. Bill.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, aliens exist.
Yes.
In other planets?
Not spacemen.
Not
but
spacemen.
Yeah.
What is passing for aliens is either human or a combination of the ultra.
Okay. This is great. Okay. This is why this is going to be a part 2 most likely. All right. No. No, I don't. I don't believe. Okay, let's start with the simplest of what I thought. I do not believe in any intelligent life form outside of this planet. I don't think that coincides with the message of redemption in the Bible. I don't. So I
Well,
think.
let me clarify.
Me either.
I don't believe they have souls.
Okay.
I need so much clarification.
Hold on.
from you two.
Wait.
So much.
Wait. Parker's trying his best to muddy the waters.
Okay.
So look. So no.
I'm trying to clarify.
I
here.
don't. Yeah, that's what you're doing. So, so no. If you're asking me if I believe there is super advanced technology that has not been disclosed to the planet, that, for example, North Korea has flying objects that can do things better than we thought they could. Of course, I'm not saying North Korea, but you get the point, right?
We've got them.
Sure. So no problem there. What I'm trying to ask, and I think that's what Hunter's trying to ask, is the word alien 5 minutes ago in this brain meant foreign, a living thing not from this planet.
Right.
So what I'm asking is, are you two saying that is what you are talking about, or that is not what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. I believe Brother Bill is in the same camp as me, right? We just don't believe they're from another planet. We believe that's a deception.
Okay. But again, so it's not you, it's Parker here. So
I wanted him to.
But again,
Okay,
I thought we were.
let's let Brother Bill
yeah.
talk. I let
Okay.
Brother Bill.
Right after World War II, during when the Cold War first started, they started seeing a bunch of stuff. A bunch of
Okay.
stuff started being reported. 1950, the term UFO was coined.
unidentified flying object, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we saying they in general, or are we talking about a specific country?
Just people in general.
Just people in general
No,
started seeing stuff, or
governments.
the Soviets or the Americans?
Kenneth Arnold, June 24th, 1949, saw unidentified flying objects around Mount Rainier in Washington.
Okay. American. Okay.
Y'all gave me the subject now.
Now, we're happy
No,
to
we
hear.
want it.
So,
I want to know everything that
So-
you want to tell me. That's why I'm asking.
what? So, let's say. Here's what I'm asking. Let's say that person really saw that. Let's
Yeah.
say that he's telling the truth. Blah blah blah. Blah, right? Okay. Are you saying that aircraft was flown by a human being or a non-human being?
I am saying it was flown by a human being and it was part of the deception.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, is there intelligent life not from this planet?
You like spacemen? No.
Okay. So,
Demons? Yes.
of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Got it. They're ultimately, if you want to think about it, from heaven. Or however you want to word that. Okay, I'm with that.
Or wishing they could go back.
Okay, so right now, spiritual warfare removed for half a second. Are there physical beings on this planet that are from another planet?
No.
No and no. Okay, Hunter, we're making progress.
We're making
progress.
All right, so here's another
now,
follow-up.
but your point is the deception is making people think there are.
It's giving them hope other than the Bible.
Okay. Hunter, we are really getting there, man. We're getting there.
Okay, now a follow-up question just for you for now.
Well, we're getting there, man.
If we believe that that was flown by a human as part of the deception, do we believe that that deception is government-made, demonic fueled?
Yes.
Or okay, so government-made.
now,
So that technology was more advanced than what they've shared with us.
Government made, kind of, in my opinion. I think we differ a little there.
kinda is my least favorite word that you use.
Okay.
Kind. You agree? Yeah.
So I'll find another one. I'm sorry.
Wait,
Pastor.
wait,
Hold on, real quick, brother Bill. Do you believe that that's the government and that they were, if that were true, then the government would have more advanced technology than what is being shared, and they used that to make people believe in aliens at the time
And today, yes.
and today. Okay.
Okay.
And then Parker, what do you believe?
Because you said kind of.
How far do you want me to muddy the waters? Is the question.
I want you to be honest as you can with your opinion on this.
Okay, I'll be as brief as I possibly can with this. There's a reason I didn't want to discuss this topic, but we're in it, and now I'm like,
We're in it.
I'm happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we know that the Book of Enoch is not scripture.
There we go.
That is. We know that.
Go ahead and schedule
They
part
did-
two. Go ahead and schedule part two.
The Israelites thought it was history, though.
So,
Right.
but here's the thing. I think that just because it's not scripture doesn't mean it can't be referred to
As we
as.
see in Jude.
I don't think that it can't be referred to as some type of history and it being historically accurate to a certain degree.
Okay.
That can be true of any
I
book ever
believe
written in
that.
history of
Yes.
mankind.
So
It's
if you,
historically accurate in that it was written before.
what
in
did
other
you
words,
Just messing
Okay.
with you.
I thought I was the one doing the confusing here. Don't confuse me like that.
Okay, was that book a compilation
The Book of Enoch.
Yes.
and put together
Yes.
about 200 years before Christ?
approximately
So it was a compilation of
of a lot of
older
different
stuff.
writings.
Yeah.
Written by whomever.
So just cutting to the
Not
chase,
Enoch.
just completely cutting to the chase on my
Yeah.
opinion of it is that I believe that the Watchers, if that's what you want to call them, came to Earth
Yep.
and gave us technology and ideas and taught us things that we weren't meant to understand, which is one of
Genesis 6 as spoken more in depth in the Book of Enoch.
Yes. So I believe that the technology for this, and also to create through some type of gene manipulation or whatever, some other type of being that is not an addition, like created being, but like taking a human and modifying it to be some type of like hyper intelligent genes, because you can
Okay.
take people use
The CRISPR.
yeah, we've got CRISPR, we've got successful cloning. Like, where did this technology come from? Because that's stuff that we're not really meant to play with. I think it existed beforehand. It was meant to be wiped out. I mean, if you look at what the Bible says about Nephilim. It says they existed in this time and afterwards, right?
Yeah.
If they existed afterwards, how did they survive? Could it be from some type of technology keeping them in the air, keeping them around, or were they more created afterwards, even after the Watchers were imprisoned in the earth, right?
So are you?
I think that this is ancient technology that has been around that we are rediscovering, and that's how some of the technology has grown so fast.
So we're not talking about breeding,
No.
like as with the Nephilim. We're talking about a technological.
I don't believe that they are Nephilim. I
Sure.
believe that this is some type of technology that was created at that time.
Okay. All right.
to alter
But-
human biology.
But
Yes.
altering human biology. I'm with that. So, well, I'm not with that, but I'm with the understanding of that. I'm with there. Okay. And that's fine because I'm probably the only one in this table who's not with that part. But I'm understanding where we're at. So, what does that have to do with alien? 'Cause
Okay.
that's not an alien.
So I'm not saying it's an alien by
Okay.
definition.
Got it.
I'm saying that's what we're calling them.
That's
Part of
okay.
it's not an
Okay.
extraterrestrial.
Okay.
It's not
Okay. In other
extraterrestrial.
words,
This is
human.
something that
What other people are calling aliens from Mars is really a genetic mutation, purposely orchestrated.
now
half
I'll
human
say
type
I'll
deal.
say this: almost every single experience people have had with UAPs, UFOs, what do you want to call them? I believe those were created by the government, and I believe that those particular vehicles are being flown around to confuse and
Alright.
deceive us.
I need your help with something.
Okay.
And not a sense of mocking. When I hear people say that, created by the government,
The United States government or
The
the
Russian-
Russian government during the time of the
Israeli
Cold War.
government.
Okay.
Israeli, like they have the technology
so
to recreate.
here's what I'm asking. The United States government is really sitting at this table, truly, if we're truly a representative democracy. Now, it doesn't work that way.
Well, they
No,
are
but-
on these phones. You know.
What I'm getting at is this. The United States,
people at our house tonight.
the United States government
Our
has-
cameras aren't caps.
we have tens of thousands. If we just take Congress,
Yeah.
we're hundreds of people. Are you telling me that every one of them are in on this deception?
No.
No, it would be deep.
No,
sea.
no. There is.
So when you say the government, you
So-
mean a small percentage of people.
Yeah, so without going super deep into it, if you look into a guy named Stephen Greer, he actually went to Congress here recently
There
and was
is
like,
somebody I've had this conversation with very recently who I think you have had this conversation with. Very recently.
possibly, and there's.
And okay, so I really know who needs to be up in this room right now.
Exactly.
But we'll
I
talk
couldn't
about that
understand
later.
why you didn't have him up
I
there.
tried. Moving on.
So, my point being is that he has been trying to bring this
You even move
to.
your hands like them. Just cover up that pinky.
Actually, I think it's this one.
That's cold.
So, I don't know. There's not enough time to really deep dive off into that. Like, this is a huge topic. But
Okay, but I have gotten some clarity. I really have. What I'm getting at right now, so far where we're at, is spacemen, other Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. No, there is no living,
yeah.
intelligent beings existing there. Period. So all four of us are on that camp. Agreed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Bill, you're on that camp too. No living beings on Mars.
No intelligent.
Okay, intelligent. Yeah, I'm not talking about frozen. I'm not talking about ice.
Right.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
talking like maybe the pathogen. You know.
Okay, so
Who knows?
good. Now, the question is, the sightings, UFOs, whatever new phrase we want to give them every few years to regarner interest. We're saying that is, in Parker's view, ancient technology rediscovered or ancient technology finally being used again that has been hidden for
Well,
these
I wouldn't say finally because he's pulling up stuff from the 1920s, and there's been
Yeah, but in the
this
grand
stuff
scheme of the world, that's
so
only 100
recently,
years ago.
relatively.
Okay. Has been rediscovered or is just not being used?
I believe that it was rediscovered. I believe this technology existed beforehand. It was studied. It has now been reused. There are
By who?
organizations There are organizations that are funded by the government that do experiments, and this is very well documented. And I'll have to, if we're doing a part 2, I can bring names and stuff like that. I've done some research in this, but it's been a while. But they have been testing these spacecrafts and everything else, and there's documentation of it. Not just the documentation on news reports, but I mean, there's these organizations exist. I mean, it's just like, not that DARPA is necessarily a part of that, but like DARPA and them creating these exosuits, and the dog that walks all over the place and can act like a dog but can open doors, and it's fully autonomous. Fully autonomous. Still has to be controlled to a certain extent, but there's so many different technologies out there, and I think we're growing faster. I think a good defense of that is that our technology seems to be moving faster and faster and faster. Think about computers. They took up this entire room, something that couldn't process what our cell phone processes now. Where did we get that technology from? How did we go from that just a few years ago? Like, we're talking about in our lifetime, right? Where this stuff never existed before, and now all of a sudden we're just booming, and it's happening out of nowhere, right? So I think there's a lot of technology that we pulled from rediscovering things that had already existed in the past. That's where I'm at with it.
Okay, so in your mind, it can't be a building off standing on the shoulders of people before and building and building and building. It has to be.
I think that's a part of
It
it.
can be to an extent, but yeah, I think what he's saying with how quickly it progressed, it would be adding from.
And I think with that being said, like what Brother Bill was saying, what we're seeing now are human-made aircrafts that are being explained away as UAPs, UFOs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that is a vast majority of what is witnessed when it's witnessed.
And where I'm going with this was not what they are or who made them, but why. They've been planting a seed in our brain since the 30s with like the War of the Worlds broadcast.
Yeah.
And they had all the pulp magazines from the 50s, and then all the movies, all the B movies in the 50s. It came from outer space, that sort of stuff.
Good voice.
But the hysteria started in 1947, as did the Cold War. There was the Roswell incident in 47. Israel became a nation in 48.
Not 48.
The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered about that time. Seems to me, there was the Washington UFO incident in 1952.
So you're saying around that time frame?
Yeah. I mean, it was like things were being planted in people's brains to have hope.
Okay, I'm with you now. In something other than
the Bible. It was part of the Great Deception.
So
particularly, I think it's interesting that if we're to go with that, which, I think there's a lot of logic in that, to be happening around the Cold War and the space race, where we are really, really, really intertwined with technology, and saying our hope is get there before the Russians, and please government, NASA get that technology there.
Bring the Nazi scientists over to help us do it because they're not communists.
So Hunter, this is a horrible place to have to leave off, but since we have to go, I think we're going to have to continue this. But I think we've gotten somewhere. I really do. Now that I understand the concept of alien and all that stuff, I think the key point of what Brother Bill just said is the truth. Regardless of whether or not we all fall in the same category, which I don't think we do, of that, the truth is Satan's job is to deceive and 100%. To always bring us away from the truth of God's word. And he can do that through fear. He can do that through false hope. He can do that through a lot of things. And that's why the scripture that's why the scripture time and time again tells us to know the scripture, to know the glory of God, to know him and know who he is, and that's how we fight against deception. All right, well, hey guys, thank you guys for coming on. Are y'all willing to come back so we can finish this later?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a yes. That's a yes. That's good enough. All right, guys.
Check pressure.
Well, thank you guys for watching. Comment, like, share, and subscribe on what you think you would like us to talk whenever we come back and finish this at another point. But, Hunter, until next time.
Deuces.
It's a beautiful morning. Okay.
It's the afternoon now, sir.
Thank you.